All right, we're on the exit ticket. Yes, so we're going to start reading at the bottom of page 67. Okay, but to answer number one, remember you have to go back to pages 62 through 63. All right, and then for number two, you need to go back to page 64. You need to go back to page, let's see, 60, yeah, part of it's right here. Let's do page 63, and then there's another quote on page 65 that will help you answer this question. And so for the next part, for answer 3, we are going to read pages 67 through the middle of page 70. So don't start listening to this until you have answered questions 1 and 2. And then when you're ready for question number 3, we're going to start reading at the bottom of page 67. And we are looking for evidence that Tim wants to participate in the war for the Patriot side. We need 2 pieces of evidence. Bottom of page 67, silently follow along. If he wants, so Father says he's talking to Mr. Heron about Sam. And he's like, if he wants to see us, he knows where he lives. Then Mr. Heron changes the subject. He says, actually, I didn't come to talk about Sam. I'm at the top of page 68. Point to it with your pencil and follow along. I want to talk about Tim. I have a little job I thought Tim might do for me. I need a boy to walk down to Fairfield for me. I watched Father's face. His eyes got narrow and he stared straight ahead. Why a boy, Mr. Heron? What's wrong with Tom? Heron shrugged. Pretty hard for a strange Indian to walk down there without getting stopped every 5 miles. No one's going to bother a boy. It was a scary idea, but exciting. It would be a real adventure. But of course, I knew I wasn't supposed to have an opinion in the matter, so I kept my mouth shut. Remember, on page 60, hang on, wait for it. Yes, on page 64, Tim talks about how he envies Sam because Sam gets to do things that are exciting. And so now on page 68, Mr. Heron has this exciting job for Tim to do. I would underline this right now. It was a scary idea, but exciting. It would be a real adventure. Okay, let's keep going. What's he going to be carrying, Father said. Oh, just some business letters, Mr. Heron said casually. Nothing important. Father said nothing, but stared down into his beer. Mr. Heron took a drink. Then he said, There's no danger in life. No one's going to bother a boy. Business letters, Father said. Yes, business letters. I couldn't keep my mouth shut any longer. I can do it, Father. I can walk down there tomorrow morning and be back by supper time. Be quiet, Tim. I'd pay him a shilling. My father stared into his beer again and then slowly began to shake his head. No, Mr. Heron, he said. Top of page 69. I've got one mixed up in this bloody war already, and I'm not going to let another one go. Mr. Heron paused before he spoke. I said they were business letters, Life. Business letters. Father stared at him. No, Mr. Heron, no. Okay, so you might have missed an important thing that you should have underlined, which is Tim's father saying, no, I've got one mixed up in this bloody war already. I'm not going to let another one go. So that lets us know Father does not believe Mr. Heron when he says Tim will be carrying business letters. He thinks he's going to be carrying letters that have something to do with the war. Let's keep going. When Father said no, he meant no. It disappointed me. It would have been a good adventure walking down to Fairfield on my own. It was on Long Island Sound. It would have been a good, here we go. I'd only been there 2 or 3 times in my life where I'd gone down with Father and Sam to buy rum. Carrying letters down to Fairfield would give me something to boast about to Sam. But Father had said no, that was that, and Mr. Heron knew it. Mr. Heron finished his beer and stood up. I had more faith in you than that, Life, he said. I thought I could count on you. We're all making sacrifices these days. My father was standing too. I've made a sacrifice, Mr. Heron. I've lost a son. You know I have no love for the rebels, and this is one war I'm not going to fight. That's something you need to underline. What Father said, I've made a sacrifice too. He doesn't have any love for the rebels, and he's not going to fight in this war. Mr. Heron nodded, and he and Tom Worrups left. I picked up the beer mugs to clean them. I wish you'd have let me go, Father. Nothing would have happened to me. Underline that sentence. I wish you would have let me go. Those weren't business letters, Tim. What? I was surprised. Top of page 70. This is very important. Please pay attention. I don't know what Mr. Heron's game is. He talks like a Tory all right, but it doesn't all quite make sense. Best thing is not to get involved with him. You can be sure any letters he's sending around aren't just about ordinary business. Now let's forget that he ever came in here. He stared into my eyes and I stared back. Yes, Father. But I couldn't forget about it. Mr. Heron had wanted me to carry some sort of war messages or spy reports or something, and that night I lay in bed in the loft. I thought about it. Oh, it would scare me all right, walking down to Fairfield with spy messages. But I wanted to do it, because it would give me something to boast about to Sam. He'd been having, please underline that, but I wanted to do it. It would give me something to boast about to Sam. He'd been having all the adventures. He was going to come home with terrific stories about being in the army and fighting and all that, and I wanted to have something to tell too. Why should he have all the glory? Why shouldn't I have some too? I wanted him to respect me and be proud of me and not think of me as his little brother anymore. I couldn't score telling points in debates the way he could, but I could be just as brave as he was and do daring things too. It made me angry with Father for not letting me go. Please underline that sentence. It made me angry with Father for not letting me go. Now go back to your exit ticket. 3A. Using evidence from the text, support the conclusion that Tim wants to participate in the war. Please go back to the things I told you to underline and to choose 2 quotes that let you know Tim wants to participate in the war for the Patriot side. And then in 3B, it says, how does Tim's attitude toward the war affect his relationship with his father? So first you need to think, does Tim support the war? Does his father support the war? Do they agree on this or do they disagree? If you agree with someone, that means you have a positive relationship. If you disagree with them, that means you have a negative relationship. And then you need a quote from the text to support your answer. Do not forget about the paragraph for part 6. Ready, set, go.